what is about to happen, according to at least what we know. So, Lord, we thank you. You are in full control. You even allowed October 7th for a reason that we one day will know. One thing we know, Lord, is that we finally woke up to understand that there are monsters around that we need not to let grow anymore, and we need to defeat them. And so, Lord, we thank you that over the past 2.5 weeks, things have completely shifted, and the people of Israel finally can breathe and see that the victory is indeed at hand. So we thank you and we bless you. And we ask that you will continue to watch over your people and watch over your land. In Yeshua's name, amen. Amen. So, shalom, everyone. I'm Amir. I'm here at the living room of my home here overlooking the Jezreel Valley. The reason why I didn't take the laptop outside is because of internet connection, but also it's getting loud when all the F-16s are taking off and landing and you wouldn't hear anything anyway. But a few minutes ago, just so you know, rocket alerts almost all across central Israel. I'm talking about everything from Tel Aviv towards the airport, Ben Gurion, all the way up towards Jerusalem. And that is, of course, because of a rocket that Yemen launched, the Houthis in Yemen launched. And I guess we're going to have to pay a visit to Hodeidah or Sana'a in the next few days. But the rocket was intercepted, thankfully. And the reason why there is such a widespread alert, even for one rocket, it's because this is a ballistic rocket and it is intercepted very high, and pieces of the interception might fall in a very large radius. So we don't want anyone to get hurt. And by the way, when you hear about or when you see explosions, not in the air but on the ground, they can actually be of two reasons. One, it's the actual rocket. And the rocket has not only explosive that creates blast, but also it has little iron pellets that literally sprays all around, and they can instantly kill people. But then there is the pieces of the interceptor. They contain no explosive, but they're just a piece of metal. And when it accumulates velocity as it falls from the sky, it can hit you and kill you also. And it can hit a car and cause the engine to explode. I mean, there are reasons why they tell us to run into the bomb shelter and to stay there for 10 minutes, because 10 minutes from the moment we know about the rocket, there's about a minute until the rocket gets here, and then the interceptors go in, and then once there's a blast, it takes a few minutes for pieces, if there are pieces of interceptor, to fall, and they might kill you. So it's October 7th, and I will lie to you if I am not heartbroken. But ever since the beginning of the war, and I kept talking about it and I kept writing about it, I believe, and hear me out all the way before you criticize me, but I believe that October 7th, as hard as it was probably the only way for Israel to wake up from two things: from the horrific inner division and from the almost criminal neglect of the dangers that we have all around us. And again, if you remember, October 7th of last year, Hamas in 3 different waves is pouring into Israel thousands of terrorist gliders, by trucks, by 4x4s, by motorcycles, by Toyota pickup trucks, and they storm, and by foot, of course, and by bicycles, and they storm. At first, they opened a few places along the fence, but then when they managed to successfully paralyze everything along the border. They actually had over 200 places along the fence where they could easily walk into Israel and back to Gaza. And that allowed them not only to kill Jewish people, but also to loot and kidnap. And just some of them kidnap people into Gaza, got back to kidnap more. And that's why by the end of the day, 250 people were abducted. Some of them were already dead bodies, but yet they know that we care about that as well. So they took it, and they took them. And Israel has entered into the new phase of our nation. And our nation will never be the same. We are scarred. We have our eyes open to dangers that I knew about them, but most Israelis wanted to live their life and they didn't care much about Hezbollah, Hamas, Houthis, Iranian militias. For someone who has a Telegram channel of news, obviously I'm all day long dealing with these things, but most Israelis, all they wanted is just give me some quiet time, give me, prosperity, let me live the good life. And we woke up to understand that just across the border, the enemy that we neglected and underestimated, the one that we could care less about, and the one that we thought it will never do anything big as the rest of them, that enemy surprised us. And when the eyes of the IDF were fixed on Hezbollah, it's Hamas that jumped the gun, it's Hamas that stole the thunder, and it's Hamas that performed the horrific massacre. And if you only knew 2% of what happened. I tried to convey it in some photos, even with the October 7th unfiltered video that I produced, but nothing can really convey what happened to us on that day. The atrocities, the big loads of burned bodies that we got, women that were raped, and genitals that were spread all around. They literally cut off male genitals, and women that were shot through their intimate part after they were raped multiple times, pelvises that were completely broken because of unspeakable atrocities. People that were hugging each other as they were shot in the head or burned alive. I don't want to go into details, but what happened is that basically Israel woke up that day. Nasrallah in Lebanon realized that somebody stole the thunder from him, and he felt that, okay, I need to do something. I can't let them have the glory all to themselves. And a day later, he started shooting rockets. And I'm going to pause right now and I'll tell you this, folks. Not in my wildest dreams would I ever think that Hezbollah will be completely crippled within 2.5 weeks. That's the war I dreaded the most. That's the war I was taught to fear the most. That's the war the IDF was prepared for the most. Hezbollah is 10 times stronger than Hamas. Hezbollah is trained more. Hezbollah is equipped more. Hezbollah is wealthy. Hezbollah is a political power in a sovereign country that is a member in the UN. Hezbollah has, the patron of Hezbollah is Iran, but it also has other allies. And Hezbollah has its own TV and radio, and Hezbollah has many businesses, drugs, and other things all across the globe. They generate tens of millions of dollars every day. Hezbollah is a monster. And within 2.5 weeks, ever since the beepers, the pagers, Hezbollah lost balance. And then every day we strike again and again and again and again, and we killed Nasrallah and his people, and we killed his successor and their people. They're still looking for the general, Brigadier General Ismail Qaani, the commander of Quds Force, the one who replaced General Soleimani that was killed by the U.S. Military under the command of President Trump at that time, January of 2020. Guys, I mean, I in my wildest dreams, I would never think that 2.5 weeks into the campaign in the north, and Hezbollah will have 85% of its rockets capability damaged. 85%. This is why they need Yemen to shoot rockets towards Tel Aviv. And Iran is very, very much in trouble. And Iran launched the most, obviously, largest ballistic missile attack on Israel ever. I guess the largest ballistic missile in the history of planet Earth, regardless of Israel. And Iran is now bracing towards an Israeli response. They are so afraid that first they removed all of their oil tankers from strategic locations. Then they cleared some headquarters. They moved the president to a secure location. But now, listen to this. This is quite amazing. A couple days ago, there was a 4.6 magnitude earthquake east of Tehran. It is a place that is struck by earthquakes quite often, by the way. So today, Al Jazeera said, quoting Iranians, that it wasn't really an earthquake, it was a nuclear test. Why? They want to tell us that they already possess a nuclear weapon, so we should not strike them. That's the subtext. So when you go that length to, have threats and excuses, you know that they are under a lot of pressure. Now, Israel has the dilemma, not only when to strike, but what to strike. We have 3 major options, actually 4. Listen to this. 1, to strike the nuclear sites. 2, to strike the oil and gas facilities that are the main income of the Iranians, or Iranian economy, I mean. Number 3 is the missile bases and military bases of the IRGC. And number 4 is assassinate leaders. We know how to send a single missile to one building and hit one room in that building. We know exactly how to do it. Israel has several super sophisticated cruise missiles that can do that. But Israel also possesses other rocket capabilities and strike capabilities to deal with the other things. Now, so these are the 4 options. Now, regarding the timing is a little bit problematic, and let me explain. If we go after something symbolic, it's easy. We can actually do it right now. We don't need to coordinate anything. We don't need to plan too much. You send a few F-35s above the skies of Iraq, you release some rockets, and they make their way and they hit some targets, and that's it. But if you truly want to eliminate nuclear sites and missile sites, you need the United States Air Force next to you, or at least a lot of armaments from the United States to be in your possession. And this is where we have a problem. The current administration does not, and I repeat, does not want to help Israel. It's funny because Joe Biden could have at least have one good legacy left behind him, and that's that he eliminated the Iranian nuclear program. But he wouldn't. He's too afraid. Kamala is too afraid. And Israel is now being forced to reconsider things simply based on what we have and what we can do with it. So the Minister of Defense is traveling today to the Pentagon to sit with Secretary Austin and to see what is it that America is willing to give Israel in order to decide together what to do. And the reason why I'm saying that is because if you want to go to nuclear sites that are deep under the ground or missile cities that are dug into mountains, you need much more than the 83 tons that we dropped above Nasrallah's bunker. You need not only precision-guided missiles, but you need a lot of heavy bombs that can be carried in by specific airplanes that I'm not even sure we have. And you need to have several rounds of strikes in order to eventually make it to the place where a third wave bomb will go in and a few seconds later explode. So, I mean, several of the first wave bombs will penetrate the thickness of the soil or the mountain. And only when you have a deep enough hole, you send the next one to go in and a few seconds later explode. And that will bring the desired outcome. So the dilemma is, are we going to wait for after the elections, which means that we're losing the momentum? We don't even know who's going to win. And now it's the time that we can retaliate for something that just happened last week. So the prime minister is deliberating right now. What is it that I want to do? Because this is Bibi's hour right now. He's basically his entire political life and career are now channeled into this very moment where he is destroying elements that were threatening Israel's existence for the last 30 years. He would not let them stay and survive. So this is what we have right now. We have a big dilemma. And I personally believe that it's not a one strike. We need to go now after the gas and oil industry and maybe kill a few of their leaders and then tell them, you know, if you're going to strike again, then we'll do something greater. And this will give us bias more. First of all, it will give us the desired outcome that they need to fear from retaliating, but also it will buy us some time until the elections in America are over. And now I want to talk about the elections in America because there is no starker difference. There's no amazing difference than on that issue of the Iranian nuclear sites when Biden and Harris said, don't, and Trump said, this is what you need to destroy first, and then do all the other things. I mean, complete opposites. And so, obviously, for Netanyahu, waiting for Trump to win would be the smartest thing, because if Trump wins, he gets to finally put an end to the nuclear program of Iran. Now, you understand that the identity of the person that sits in the White House matters a lot to Israel's existence and survival. Now, I know that God will, of course, fight for us, but the timing of when is it that we're going to deal with Iran depends a lot on what's going on in Washington. And today we had two high-ranking senators that came to encourage Netanyahu, Senator Lindsey Graham, and another person, I forgot his name, but Netanyahu thanked them and he said, look, this is not the Holocaust where we couldn't respond, we couldn't rise and strike back. We're a strong country now. We rise and we strike back. And then Netanyahu added, with the help of the United States, we can do it. Which signaled to me the will of of Netanyahu at this point to maybe wait with the nuclear sites until he gets the US to be fully on board with Israel and just do it together. I mean, we have the reason, we have the excuse, we have the opportunity. Now, just imagine to yourself if Iran would have possessed nuclear weapon already, what would those ballistic missiles attack could look like for Israel? You can imagine. We cannot let them do that. Now, Israel is afraid that now that Iran is losing its proxies, such as Hamas and Hezbollah, and of course we can easily deal with the Houthis and the Iraqi militias, Israel is afraid that Iran will then feel like it's with its back to the wall and then immediately push towards the last phase of the nuclear weapon production. They have all the uranium they need. And so they don't even need to enrich more to already have bombs. All they need to do is to move now to the technical part of assembling things together as a bomb and then making it a warhead and attaching it to an existing rocket. So that's why we need to destroy those rockets, because the rockets are the means of transportation of any potential nuclear warhead. And so, folks, a great dilemma for Netanyahu right now. I truly hope that Israel will not hold back this time and do something that will hurt the Ayatollah's regime. And hopefully, Trump will win. So at least by January, we can settle the score with Iran when it comes to the nuclear site. We have the capabilities to reach Iran. We have the planes. We have our own very destructing, powerful rockets that we don't even have to use airplanes. We can just launch them from Israel. But to reach the maximum effect, you want to fly as close as possible and aim the bombs in the way and the angle and the timing that will generate the best outcome. So that's exactly the dilemma that we have right now. In Lebanon, we're working hard. We already invaded into southern Lebanon. 3 maneuvering divisions are now in southern Lebanon. And trust me, if you follow me on Telegram, you can see this QR code. You'll see that we're leveling. Those villages and towns will not stay standing. I'm telling you, all the South Lebanese Shiites that hosted and harbored Hezbollah, I don't think they'll have a house anymore. I don't think they'll be able to move back in the next few years. They're now learning what it means to basically give their home to Hezbollah to use. In Gaza, Hamas accumulated enough rockets to pay back or to avenge their defeat. And Hamas fired 14 rockets today. Now, let me explain. By the way, no damage, which is another thing I wanted to talk about. But Hamas fired 14 rockets at the time frame that on October 7th last year, it fired nearly 4,000 rockets. You see the difference when you maneuver inside and you take the capabilities from your enemy. And all of that thanks to the fact that we are blocking the supply from the Philadelphia corridor. And we're doing now the same with Lebanon. Now, Lebanon is a bigger country and it's bordering with Syria in the north and on the east. So Israel is busy not only fighting Hezbollah soldiers on the ground, but also fighting the smuggling attempts and destroying Iranian cargo that arrives in Syria. Some people spread some fake news that Israel bombed a Russian base in Syria. It's not the case. There is a Russian base in the airfield of Khmeimim where an Iranian plane landed an unloaded weapon, but then they moved the weapon to a storehouse outside the base, and that's the one Israel destroyed. So Israel did not destroy anything inside the base. We did not put the Russians in danger, but we definitely attacked next to it. And the Russians could see it. They tried to shoot down the Israeli missiles, but they failed. Today, another 747 cargo plane landed in Latakia. So if you hear from me about an Israeli strike in Latakia in the next few hours, you know why. This is not humanitarian aid, trust me. It's weapons. And it's weapons that is aimed for Hezbollah. So what we're doing, we're destroying the smuggling routes, we're destroying the sites where they manufacture, and we're destroying the weapon depots where they already store the weapon inside Lebanon or in Syria. So we're bombing around the clock, literally. Today, in the last couple hours, about 150 targets were destroyed within 2 hours. So we're working very hard in Lebanon. And regarding Hamas in Gaza, Israel decided to, for the first time, to push all the Gazans in northern Gaza Strip beyond the Netzarim corridor and all the way into the humanitarian area on the south. And we're cleaning northern Gaza completely. It will not be inhabited anymore. And if you've been following me on Telegram and on our Mideast update, which we will resume once things will get better over there, you will see the maps and you will understand what it's all about. I'm going to also work on, for the sake of the Telegram followers, and you can become one, I'm going to create from our maps, I'm going to create some moving maps right there on Telegram, so it will educate you also. We're working hard on improving our Telegram channel because we're being suppressed on Facebook. Now, I would like to also ask you to share this video, but also share our YouTube channel as well. We really want to reach the 1 million subscribers in order to have a greater reach with the algorithm of YouTube. And that is, of course, based on exposure. So if you can, share the YouTube channel. And we already have 940,000 subscribers. But again, the more we have, the more exposure we have to so many non-believers who are confused and fearful, and they don't know what to do right now. But also, folks, again, October 7th, I'll go back to what I started with. October 7th may have been the only way for us to wake up. God has allowed it. It's a fact. And looking at the fact that we're still here and we're now stronger and we're now, almost completely destroyed our enemies from the north and from the south, it is obvious to me that God had allowed it, but God has it all covered. We will never, ever truly understand the sheer evil and of people in how it's even possible. But evil exists. Evil existed already in Genesis. From chapter 3 and on, you can see murder, you can see malice, you can see sin that is introduced. But then the manifestation of the sin is getting worse and worse, all the way to the point that in chapter 6 already of the first book of the Bible, God was already sorry that he created earth and he created man. So don't be surprised that things are only getting worst, and don't be surprised when people take pleasure in killing and beheading and burning and raping. And it's not God who is doing that, it's people who are doing that, evil people. God is giving people free will, and unfortunately they are choosing the wrong thing. By the way, the Lord said to Moses, here I put before you, tell the children of Israel, evil and good, death and life, choose life. I mean, it's here before you. You have to choose life. You have to choose good, not evil. And so people choose evil. And thankfully, God is taking that horrific choice and at least using it for something good. And I can, although it took me time, I absolutely can see the good that came out of this evil of October 7th. I can see that. And again, I'm telling you, Israel, if we only waited a year or two, and if only Hezbollah would have started first, or would have been part of a multi-front simultaneous strike as the Iranians originally envisioned, we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be here right now. I wouldn't be talking to you right now. Thank God that of all of them around us, it was Hamas that started it and not Hezbollah. And thank God that we were able to respond in a manner that eventually